Up brilliantly in the overall standings. Away we go. We'll start with the 4 board as we see Vincent with an immediate first move, but we're going to track whether or not there is consensus, and I do see one differential. That will be on the bottom left-hand side of your screen there. It's Arjun Erigaisi who decides to go his own way.
That's not the first time anyone said that. I mean, Arjun usually does find the offbeat path. It is the central pawn that he moves 2 steps forward. Everybody else going in with Peter and Judith's suggestion. I think for Vincent, he wants to not only do that, he wants to follow it up with his idea of his mentor with pushing the e-pawn next 1 step ahead, just gaining more squares at the center of the board. E3 coming up by Vincent.
Yeah, we've seen 3 English openings, one to C4, and 1 Sicilian with Arjun and Sindarov. Almost the same idea, just with colors reversed, which is interesting. As yeah, we see 2 players now, or actually just Magnus still thinking. Levon eventually made a decision against Fabiano. Magnus wondering what to do next against the most obvious move. The fact that he was sitting alone may be slowing him down slightly. Wonder why or how he didn't guess that one.
What do you make of that response? He's just going to go for symmetry out the gate here, where most of the other players look to develop their knights into that line that was discussed earlier.
Yeah, that is a pawn sacrifice, Tanya. He is dropping a pawn as early as move 1, Magnus, but he's hoping to get his knights out quickly if the pawn is captured. I'm not sure whether it's worth the squeeze there.
Yeah.
Vincent Keymer against Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, that's the top left board right there. He also opens up his own queen, eyeing that h2 pawn if h7 was taken. I think tactics, early tactics in that one, which is why Vincent is now thinking about, does he defend his own h2 pawn? Does he go all out with h7? Big decisions in move 2 for Keymer.
Yeah, it feels like it's come as a bit of a surprise to him, and rightfully Carlsen yet to commit his king to either side of the board, as we had seen Javokhir Sindarov do in his position. But a bit of a different look here with the g-pawn for the black side starting to eliminate some of those light squares at the center of the board.
Yeah, very interesting. Magnus and Hans have almost copied each other in terms of pawn structure, piece play, and Magnus looking very relaxed right now. Big question for Vincent where the king's going to go. Maybe he's overextended somewhat. There we go. He does kick away the bishop. But the last time we saw this was in the Hans Niemann game. Hans reacted by bringing his bishop to attack the white rook. That looks just as strong here. And the bishop could also step back and harass a vulnerable knight.
Yeah, gets the question mark here, though. Implies there's a very solid response for Magnus Carlsen if he can find it.
Also, so much of their approach here is based on the score lines that we're seeing, right? Magnus and Fabi with a 1-point lead at 2.5 out of 3 games. Meanwhile, we've got 5 players with a 1.5. And Vincent Keymer is one of them. You know, with just 4 rounds remaining and a qualification spot for the top 4 to try to fight for that world championship title, this is extremely important for Vincent to not lose against the world #1.
And that's the thing. I would argue you should be fighting against the world #1 for a draw here, right? Don't take too many risks. Don't take too many chances. Look for your wins in the remaining rounds of the day, but already things are starting to look a little scary.
Might be too late for that, David.
Yeah, it's tricky in the middle of a tournament. You want to play principled moves, you want to still go for it. You don't know how hard to push, but sometimes you have to be really sneaky and kind of calculative about these things. Apparently there's a very strong sacrifice in this position,
well,
not just the black bishop moving.
Then we got to look at it, because you know Magnus will find it, at least as an option.
Yeah, he's looking, he's tempted. Apparently the black knight can also jump forward in this position, ignoring the hit on the black bishop. I'll just put this on the board while Magnus thinks. This is my move, not his. If the knight does jump forward, if the bishop is captured, knight takes pawn is not just a check, it also removes the defender of this white knight, and the black queen swoops in on the diagonal with a winning attack. Pawn gain and checkmate possibly incoming. That would be really nasty and force Vincent probably to just give up the castling rights immediately by defending with his king. He goes back instead, Magnus. That's more natural.
More conservative, though, as well, which also might speak to his scoreline, right? 2.5. I don't need to do anything crazy. I can absorb blows. Even if he, at this point, were to put up ½ a point a game for the remainder of the day, he would likely still end up in the top 4. Of course, we know he'll push for first in a choice of his opponent at dinner tonight.
But what's happened over the last few moves with all the trades, and now once the dust is settled, there is a double attack on both these pawns, and I don't really see a healthy way for white to defend both. Well, there's queen lining up with the bishop, queen to b2, laterally defending f2 and e5. Is that what Vincent has to rely on? But it just doesn't look like a happy move to put your long-range pieces onto defense here. Vincent Keymer, something's gone wrong.
Something's gone wrong. And Magnus, this pawn structure does actually arise from many openings in traditional chess. So he's using that pattern recognition to just create threats, get a very stable base. Black can castle. I don't think Vincent's happy. It's not such a kind of natural position to play with white, especially the white king. We talked about it literally on move 4, move 5. 6, 7 moves later, it's still an issue. He plays the move Tanya mentioned. He had to, but he doesn't look happy about it.
No one would be. It's just coming in the way of its own bishop. Magnus has got beautiful coordination. The other knight can also start jumping in, putting more pressure on those central pawns right now. Magnus up on the clock, and that tells you all you need to know about this position. He's the one who's attacking the pawns. He's the one who's got the clock advantage. Better king. Which is just castled, I believe.
There it is. Yeah, all points in favor of Magnus here in this one, but still chances for Keymer to equalize and scrape away with half a point to his name.
And it gets completely chaotic if more than one person is on that 4th place, you know, tying for that qualification. If you've got players on equal number of points, we're going to see tie breaks. It's a long day of chess ahead of us, especially with 5 people on 1.5. I think that's very likely.
Yeah, guaranteed, of course, the 7 rounds, but possible tiebreakers at the end of the day to decide our top 4 and bottom 4. Reminding everybody at home that different to our previous events, you must make it to the top 4 out of this round robin to have any chance at winning the whole thing and becoming the first FIDE Freestyle Chess World Champion.
Yeah, Magnus just looks so calm. I don't envy Vincent's position here. I don't envy his situation. The white bishop would love to move out the way to get castled, but that would only drop a pawn. Coming into the center feels like a vulnerable square. I mean, I think this h-pawn push idea was just too slow. It feels disconnected from the rest of the position. This black knight is just impossible to kick out, get rid of. Magnus can change the pace by blowing open this line, by opening up the center if he wants at any point. Vincent decides to move his queen again. Yeah, it's difficult. At least now he is trying to kick the knight out, but it is a pawn sacrifice, Tanya. He is allowing the central pawn to drop, hoping here in return that he would get the dark squares.
Yeah, which is odd because he's technically threatening, right, that d7 pawn, but with the capture, the knight ends up defending.
It's also so dangerous to pick up that pawn when your king is uncastled in this position. And I think I completely agree that you probably want as white that pawn off the board rather than on the board, that e5 pawn, just simply to open up your bishop diagonal. And then you can look at setting up future batteries, which are going to be a lot more powerful against that g7 pawn. Also, maybe throw in h6 if that was to happen, and actually justify the alpha zero approach with h4, h5 eventually.
Yeah, Magnus isn't a pawn grabber by nature. He would prefer to give up a pawn, especially positional pawn sacrifices. He tends to resist. So I would be shocked, actually, if he took this pawn immediately. He'd more likely wait for a pawn to step forward, kick his knight, and then, when he needs to, go and capture.
Yeah, I don't see Magnus picking up that pawn and just opening up, giving these open lines to Vincent's bishop here.
How to play instead. The other knight can move. That would be maybe the most logical or the most natural move in the position.
Maybe line up your rook on that D line, trying to get a D break in. You know, your king is in the center of the board.
There we go. Makes sense. Okay, using some of his time advantage. Maybe while Magnus thinks, we can check out some other boards.
This is here for Vincent down the stretch. We're going to arrive at what appears to be a more even board state. Carlsen has wrestled some of it back. Look at the time, though, for each of our players. 35 seconds to only 7 seconds here for Vincent. He's got to move quick.
Ooh, dramatic stuff happening. Magnus is currently down a pawn, but yeah, threats galore. The rook was hit. Yes, the black knight was also hit, but loose pieces drop off, and both sides have those loose pieces right now. Oh, the nerves must be jangling in there.
Absolutely. Everything's hanging. You could also think about just picking up the e4 pawn with your bishop, opening up that line against the white bishop. It's all about the clock now. And again, an endgame with so many minors and pieces hanging, it's anyone's game. Magnus attacks the rook and the bishop at the same time.
Ooh, Vincent saves his rook, hits the black knight now. Nice active defense from both sides.
He's found magic in Weissenhaus once before against Magnus Carlsen. Can he find it again? Look at those heart rates at the bottom of your screen. His heart's about to beat right out of his chest.
Someone call the ambulance. That's 160 for Vincent Keymer.
Woo!
Oh, and pieces are coming off the board. There was a pin on the c-file. Now, bishop for knight exchange. White is still a pawn up. If he can consolidate now, if he can get his king to a better square off the back rank, where it's almost cut off now, and then he has fantastic winning chances, but not easy. Magnus's pieces are active.
Pawn's looking to fall off. Of course, it is defended by the rook currently.
5 extra seconds every time you make a move is what Vincent's relying on right now as the knight attacks the rook, and every move coming in with a threat by both players. Keymer, is he going to repeat?
Are we looking for a draw? I mean, if you're Keymer, I think you might be happy with that, right? 1.5, you take the half a point against the world #1.
He doesn't.
He doesn't.
He's playing for more.
Okay, he's going to fight. He says, this is my chance. I've done it before. I can do it again.
Oh, but this might be it. The central pawn is attacked. The only way to defend all of your pawns at once is to bring your rook back to the center. But that would be a threefold repetition. Magnus could bring his bishop back and claim the draw. Vincent plays on, drops his knight back to hit the rook.
Forcing the black rook away, Vincent Keymer, relying on that a-pawn, trying to get that to move ahead to get some winning chances in the position. He's given up that e4 pawn.
Oh dear.
Still not clear how he's going to get that push in.
Yep, so gives back the pawn advantage that he had.
How to get the white knight active, though. Anywhere else on the board, and that knight would have been causing some real chaos. But shake of the head from Vincent. He has to watch out. Magnus is also ready to break the other side of the board. Pawn to g5 would break up the white pawn chain. The black king would start coming. The bishop, for now, is probably stronger than the knight, and the black rook is really active, doing so many jobs. And there we go, the pawn break has happened. I've seen Magnus win these so many times. Bishop and rook tend to work quite well against knight and rook, especially when the bishop has a safe square.
g5, fantastic call there by you, David. I think that is Magnus's winning plan. And even if the position is in balance, it's suddenly gotten very dangerous because black does have the making of a passed pawn. e5 is weak as well. And look at that. Vincent's last few moves, just absolutely defensive play now. It's completely shifted now.
Yeah, at this point, it feels like a 2-result game, but it's Magnus playing for the win.
Exactly, and we know what he thinks about those types of blockades, those fortresses. The knight, though, does have finally some good squares to come to. Maybe it can park itself on f4. Any stable dark square would do. The white king still cut off. Magnus looking at the clock.
He's reaching for his bishop, slides it over. Magnus looking to reroute his pieces here. Gets the rook to pin the knight. Only move.
Drops his bishop back. Player's just repeating the position almost. Hard to make progress for black. Magnus will be tempted to play for a win, but a draw would be decent for him in terms of the standings as well. He's moving his bishop back and forth.
He wants to get that king closer to that e-pawn, but Vincent Keymer isn't allowing it. Taking away some key squares with his own knight.
Yeah, it feels like Vincent's stable enough now. I think just impossible to kick away the rook. The white rook holds all the pawns. The white knight going back and forth, but yeah, just neither side can make progress. What do you think, Tanya? Surely a draw now. Surely.
It's Magnus, it's hard to say. He brings the knight forward. Can you now put your king on f5 closer to the e5 pawn?
Yeah, his goal is to get the king closer, eventually use the rook as well to come and take the pawn, but hard to achieve everything. The knight covers squares. You don't want to blunder a fork. That's why Magnus keeps putting his bishop as far away as possible. His rook, his king, his bishop, they're all far from any checks.
The tension, another repetition being offered here by
Vincent's begging for it now, please.
He's done everything right defensively, Vincent Keymer. Magnus keeps bringing his bishop forward. He's saying, take me, please. But the knight is so important to hold the squares. I don't think you want to risk a rook and pawn endgame transformation here.
And I believe after rook e2, what Magnus wants to do is give a check and then move the bishop away. Trading rooks might favor Vincent in this position.
Especially with white's a-pawn running up the board. The black rook is so key.
Okay, stops it.
How many times has that knight moved? I think it's moved like 7 in a row.
Yeah, it's moved 10 out of the last 12 moves.
There you go. That's wild. But again, speaks to the importance of that knight holding down the position.
It's like Vincent's found a fortress and he's just sticking to plan. You know, he's happy shuffling the knight. The rook stays where it is, defending all the pawns on the board and making sure that Magnus's king doesn't get closer to any one of them.
There might have been an opening there for Magnus, just a small one. Didn't find rook c2, and instead brought his king back towards the center of the board.
And it's there again.
It's there again.
Apparently the key idea is to bring the rook back to the 4th rank to stop the white knight using the central square here. That means the black king can enter slightly closer to the white pawn. I have a feeling, though, Magnus has been setting up the idea of bringing his king the whole way around. Wow. Here we go. I was thinking about this one as well. I'm not sure where it's going from there, but a nice idea to change the type of position that Vincent might have to defend.
Yeah, a long journey for this king, but with all that time, Vincent doesn't really have any options. He's going to look to continue to reroute his knight.
Magnus keeping the tension.
And now if you're white, you have to suddenly fight against this blow on the other side with the king coming forward, right? And how do you figure that out in seconds? Because you've been so stuck on your fortress, making sure that it stays the way it is and feeling completely safe. But now you need a completely different mindset. As Magnus is coming on the dark squares.
He's literally moved his knight 17 out of the last 19 moves.
That's what I'm saying. This poor knight, it's got to be so tired.
Oh, that bishop's so strong on so many squares. It's outposted. This check, though, does drive the black king further away from the center.
Now he puts pressure on the d7 pawn, forcing the bishop back.
How many times in the last 12 months have we commentated on Magnus grind this type of position out?
But can you do that with king a5, king a4, get it closer to that a3 pawn, and then attack it with your rook and try to win it?
That looks like his plan. Magnus he likes to wait, and when the opponent has only a few seconds left, then he sets the trap. Then he gives you a narrow path to survival. The knight is not a comfortable piece.
And kicks the knight away one more time. Now the king finds its way to a5. Soon we're going to be overloading pressure onto that pawn.
But what Vincent's setting up is his knight getting all the way to f6 to hit that g4 pawn as well at the right time. So he stops rook e to check first, making sure that there's no grab of the e5 pawn, and now he's going to find activity with his own knight.
A rook trade might not help black here. There we go. Great prediction, Tanya. The knight is coming. Magnus grimaced as he saw that move, realizing his winning attempts might not be so realistic after all.
You can see the frustration in his face in that one. Thought maybe he had found a pathway to victory, but Vincent...
But I mean, full credit to Vincent, right? Surviving this Magnus onslaught here.
This is a stellar performance. I mean, again, you may be thinking back to some earlier points in the game where possibly you could have taken a victory, but you might be happy to scrape away with a draw in the end.
In fact, right now, it's Vincent who's up a pawn, suddenly.
Yeah, he's going back round. How can Magnus steer this towards safety? Maybe just activate his king, continue marching. He walks onto the 5th rank. If he'd gone the other way, there might have been some tactics, knight takes pawn, and some double attacks, some checks. So a big threat now. The king is coming. The white king is in the kill zone, is in a bit of a mating net.
So Vincent looking to activate his rook, king d4. What's his idea? He wants to give a check and start grabbing on g4. So stopped right now from getting in. Attacks it.
Great move from Vincent. Cutting off the black king is so important. If he wants the draw, surely now he can just remove that pawn from the board. There we go. Vincent should be out of danger now, barring anything crazy happening.
Yeah.
Both sides should be out of danger. Should be a draw now. And there we go. It is a handshake after a long, long fight.
Woo, relief on the face of Vincent Keymer there, it feels like, at the end of that one. As half a point goes to each of these players, Magnus Carlsen will move up to 3 points to his name, Vincent Keymer, 2 to his through 4 rounds of the day. And interestingly, while that game played out to a draw, Levon managed to pull his losing position back to a draw against Fabiano Caruana.